please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight seeking your guidance as we discuss the reopening of the school for a new year, the excitement around bringing students back, and just pray that in all things that we plan, that you would have your blessing. Thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
The meeting is called to order at 7:30. All right. Participation in school board meetings. The board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express concerns regarding the agenda items. Comments will be limited to board meeting agenda items with a time limit of 3 to 5 minutes. Does anyone have a public comment? Okay. Adoption of the agenda. It's recommended that the agenda for the July 12th, 2021 meeting be approved as presented with additions, corrections, or deletions as recommended by the board. Do we want to, is the advertised agenda had the correct wording on the corporation hiring, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Should be good. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Ron Childress. Second, Scott Carmichael. All those in favor? Passed 5-0. It is recommended that the minutes from the June 14th, 2021 meeting be approved as presented. Do I have a motion? Scott Carmichael. Second, Heather Hudson. Now,
I was not here.
you were not here. Okay, you will, we're fine, we're fine. So, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? That'd be Martha and Rob. Passed 3-0-2 because the abstentions go with the majority. All right, it's recommended that the claims numbers 13687 through
13791.
be approved as presented. Do I have a motion? Heather Hudson. Second. Martha Marmazet. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Yep. Okay. First thing we have up is a recommendation to approve the resolution from Northwest Bank to begin the process of moving our payroll / ACH payments from Old National Bank to Northwest.
Do I have a motion? Scott Carmichael, second by Ron Childress. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Next up is I'm making a recommendation for the board to approve a quote from HiCom to install a new surveillance camera system in the high school at a cost of $61,254.50. Just to talk about that a little bit, that money is coming out of the leftover funds for the high school construction on the kind of the reconstruction, the second time they had to go in and make some changes and make some improvements. So that's where that money is coming out of. We're going to need to make some of those similar improvements to this building, but we have to take that out of what would be more corporation funds, so we have to wait to do that in 22. But we're hoping to do that as early in 22 as possible. But I just want to make sure everybody understood exactly where that money was coming from and why we're doing it earlier than another campus.
Do I have a motion? Heather Hudson. Second. Ron Childress. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Next up is I'm asking the board to allow me to execute the ESSER 3 grant. That's the federal stimulus money, the round 3 money that we received to the tune of about $1.57 million. So I'm asking them to give me the authority to execute that grant. Why I'm asking them to do that right now instead of coming back every board meeting and approving different little pieces is some of the parts of this ESSER grant we have written for some different positions that the board has to create when those positions aren't already part of our staff. So if they allow me to execute this grant, then it becomes part of the record that they're allowing me to create those positions and get them posted and those sorts of things. So it just basically saves us a lot of time, lets me start working on this grant immediately, get some of these positions posted and start spending this money, which a large amount of this money is going toward things for our kids and our staff. So I want to get going on this immediately. So that's what this allows the board to do for me.
Do I have a motion? Scott Carmichael, second. Martin Marmozet. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Thank you. Next up is a recommendation to approve the textbook rental and student fees for the 21-22 school year as presented.
Do I have a motion? Heather Hudson. Second by Ron Childress. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Next up is a motion to approve the 21-22 school reopening plan. I want to go over some of the points that I know everybody wants to know about. Part of receiving the ESSER money that I just talked about, that ESSER 3, was that every school corporation in the state of Indiana, if you were taking that money, you had to do a reopening plan, advertise it, let people kind of know what you were thinking about doing, what your plan might be, and just be very open and transparent about it. So what we have tried to do over the past month to month and a half is take our time and look at kind of the trends, what's going on with COVID at the time, really start taking a look at what some similar schools are even doing and getting ideas of what people are doing overall. We also took a look at what was last year like, what was our numbers as far as positive cases and things like that, and can we do anything different based off of what was going on last year. So we took all that into account. We posted a plan a few weeks ago of where we thought we were going. We're gonna, I think, tweak that just a little bit from what I'm going to read tonight. I think everybody will like what we're going to do, but we'll see. So I'm just gonna kind of read off of the quick reference guide, which is basically page 2 of the plan. Not much has changed other than just a little bit of wording, but I want to make sure we're very transparent with everybody. So obviously our instruction model is going to be 5 days a week, kids in the buildings. That's how we're going to start. We are not going to have a virtual option this year. So I know last year we partnered with Edmentum and gave parents and kids the option to do that. So we're not providing a virtual option this year. So our plan is 5 days a week in classrooms. Students and staff are expected to self-screen. This is the same as last year. As much as possible, we're asking parents, if your kids don't feel well, please don't send them to school. I mean, that was really kind of what we asked people to do even pre-COVID. So if kids don't feel, and staff too, if kids and staff don't feel good, please keep them home. The school nurse is going to work closely with parents of students who are displaying the symptoms of COVID, and she's going to communicate with them and see how the student is progressing. So let's say we have a student that's not feeling well, they stay home, they're showing some of the symptoms of COVID. The nurse is going to continue to communicate with that parent to see how they're progressing. If that student has gotten better over the next few days, the conversation might be had that they can come back earlier than the 14-day quarantine. So we're not going to be as black and white as we were last year with, okay, you've got 2 symptoms, you're gone for 14 days, you're staying home. I think we can have that conversation a little bit more with parents to see how they progress, and we might be able to get them into school quicker than that. Notice I said may, because it all depends on how things are looking with that particular child. Obviously, if symptoms have not improved, the student will need to either see a doctor and have the symptoms explained as non-COVID related. They can provide a negative COVID test, or they complete the 14-day quarantine. So those all are very similar to what we were already doing, but we feel like we can keep those communication lines open and help a little bit more in that way to get kids back in school and keep them in the classroom as much as possible. Fully vaccinated students and staff do not have to quarantine if they are close contacts unless they develop symptoms. Obviously, if they start feeling bad, then stay home and get tested, those sorts of things. Masking is going to be optional. So that's my recommendation, is that if we are all in favor that if students and staff feel more comfortable wearing a mask, please do so. But those students and staff that feel comfortable not wearing masks, you're going to be just fine not wearing masks during the school day. We will continue to use the 10-day quarantine for positive cases and 14-day quarantines for illnesses, close contacts, things like that. What we're going to do for contact tracing this year, we may not necessarily in every case drill down to every single individual student that might be a close contact. I know we ran into a lot in the elementary last year was if we had a positive case in a classroom, it was pretty much automatic that we were quarantining the entire classroom. I don't think we have to be quite that black and white this year. I think we can look at some things, ask some questions, communicate with the teacher, communicate with some parents, and have the discussion on who possibly might need to quarantine in that classroom. So there's a paragraph in here that discusses that. Obviously, students and staff who are close contacts of a COVID positive household member should quarantine. I truly believe that's where we saw a lot of our spread was more between households last year than it was through the school. When I ran the numbers, we overall, between students and staff, I think we only had 3.6% of our entire school population had a positive case of COVID. In students, it was like 3.2 or something like that, maybe even 2.8. I can't remember which one it was. It's very low. I just don't feel from the evidence we had that it was a rampant spread through our schools, which makes me feel a little bit better about loosening up just a little bit to try to keep our kids in school. But what everybody needs to understand is this is a fluid plan, and the state even tells us that, and the Greene County Health Department even tells us that. The State Department of Health tells us that. This has to be a fluid plan. If things all of a sudden take a turn for the worse and we're seeing an uptick in cases and things like that, we have to go directly back to this plan, revise it, change course, and we might have to get more strict. But it's all with what goes on in our schools. The mandate from the federal government with us taking that ESSER money even is this has to be looked at after 6 months. So once we're in school for 6 months, we have to revisit this plan and see where we're at and see if any revisions have to be made. And if we make any revisions, we have to make it public. We have to let you know what we're doing. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that this right here is not set in stone. Things can change based off of what's going on in our schools, but we definitely want to do the best we can for everybody. I already talked about masks being optional. Buses. Here is one area where we really don't have a lot of choice. Masks will be mandated on buses for both drivers and students. There's a federal mandate right now that says all public transportation, and they even put in parentheses, including school buses, masks are mandated. Now, I did see a date, and I think it's like mid to late September that mandate is through right now, and obviously they can always extend a mandate, but they can also end it. So I don't know what their plan is with that, but for right now, wearing a mask on a bus is mandated by the federal government. So that's one area we don't have much say in. So I think that's it. I think that's most of the kind of the hot button topics that I know people want to know about with masks and quarantines and things like that. So do want to say thank you to everybody who gave me input on this. Obviously, Debbie Babcock, school nurse, she and I have been emailing back and forth. She even came in and we met for about 45 minutes one day and we poured through this. And anybody else I reached out to kind of talk to about what they think, and even other school leaders that I've reached out to, I thank them for this, because it's not an easy thing to do. And the board here, I thank the board too for their input. They gave me input on it. So it's just a very difficult position to be put in, because you're just in the middle of people that, you know, they like this, they don't like that, and that's okay. That's leadership. But hopefully we're going to do the best for everybody this year. That would be my goal. So I guess that's our reopening plan in a nutshell. And if it's approved, we will get this put online to replace the other one that was on there, because there, like I said, there's just a few tweaks in the wording. We'll get that put up as soon as possible for everybody to see.
Do I have a motion to approve the reopening plan? Scott Carmichael, seconded by Heather Hudson. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Okay, thank you for that. Next up, I am recommending that we purchase a new activity bus at the cost of $39,696 from Midwest Transit. That's a 2017. It's got pretty low mileage on it, so it's pretty good for us. The reason we're doing this, because we actually did this just a month ago, we were able to purchase a new minibus out of the ESSER grant that we just talked about a little bit ago. Part of the money that we receive from the ESSER grant has to be used toward what they call learning loss. So we have to show that we are doing some things for our students that is going to help them catch up from, you know, the in and out of school during COVID. Well, we plan on doing some after-school tutoring and remediation and things like that. We want to be able to provide transportation for students. So I was able to tell them that, well, we're going to be using a minibus to do this for, you know, provide transportation, and they okayed the purchase of that, which freed up money in our bus replacement plan for us to get yet another minibus, which is greatly needed. So it's going to replace a couple of our minibuses that are getting up there in miles and years. So that's my recommendation to the board.
I have a motion. Scott Carmichael, seconded by Martha Marmazet. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Thank you. Next up is a recommendation to approve the out-of-state overnight field trip to Washington, D.C. for the 8th grade, and that will be May 10th through 14th, 2022. Obviously, that is a fluid situation too. We just have to wait and see what the COVID situation looks like. We had high hopes that they were going to be able to go last year, and they just couldn't guarantee us that DC was going to be open very much, some of the things that the kids would want to see, so we had to put an end to that one. I will tell you this, what we are looking to do, we're looking at some avenues to try to provide a trip for the last couple classes that have missed that trip. We know it's a very special trip to take, so we're trying to figure out how we can provide that for it'd be this year's freshman class and sophomore class that missed it. So I'm not going to make any promises, but I'm going to do what I can to see how we can get a trip scheduled for them to take that trip too. So
I have a motion to approve the DC trip? Scott Carmichael, second by Heather Hudson. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Okay. Next up, we have some resignations. Recommendation to approve the resignation of Tammy Spradlin as third grade teacher. And I just want to thank Tammy for her many years of service to Eastern Green as a teacher.
Motion, Scott Carmichael, second by Ron Childress. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Next up, we have a recommendation to approve the resignation of Nathan Mack as middle school PE teacher. And I do want to add, I think we forgot to write this out more fully. He is not going to be approved by the other board that he is going to until July 26th, I think. So his letter of resignation says that he is resigning pending board approval by the other board, and I agreed to that. I think everything's going to be fine. It usually is. But he got us that letter very kindly. I asked him to allow us to start the process of finding a teacher, and we're in the process of doing that right now. So I think everything's going to work fine. I just want to make sure that everybody understands it's pending approval by the other board.
What's the date again?
That he's being approved. I think it's July 26th. But it's in his resignation letter, the date.
Do I have a motion? Heather Hudson, second by Ron Childress. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Thank you. Next up, we have I want to thank Nathan for his years of service too. Nathan's a great PE teacher for us. We have a recommendation to approve the hiring of Bridget Craig as a 6th grade teaching assistant.
Do I have that motion? Scott Carmichael, second. Ron Childress. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Next up, we have a recommendation to transfer Christina Rollins from a middle school teaching assistant to an elementary middle school day custodian at 40 hours per week.
Do I have that motion? Heather Hudson, second by Scott Carmichael. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Next up, we have a recommendation to approve the hiring of Charles Cooper as a night shift custodian at 40 hours per week.
Do I have a motion? Scott Carmichael, second by Ron Childress. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Another custodial. I know Tabby is very happy to be filling out her custodial crew. She's been looking for people for a couple years now to keep people in those positions, and she's finding them, which is good. So we have a recommendation to approve the hiring of Cammie Jacob as a day custodian at 28 hours per week.
I have a motion. Heather Hudson, second by Scott Carmichael. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Next up is I'm asking the board to give me the authority to make necessary hires between the July and August board meetings to facilitate the start of school. All of these hires would be subject to approval at the August school board meeting. Basically, it saves us from having to call a special meeting toward the end of July to get any hires we need to make, like PE. We're going to have some other classroom aid positions, things like that need to be hired. And if I have the authority to hire them, get them started, so then we're not trying to, at the last second, scramble to get subs and things like that because the board hasn't approved them, it helps out greatly. The last couple schools that I've worked at, the superintendent has used this very wording, and it just helps out greatly, and it saves the board trying to figure out when we can all get together for a special meeting at the end of July. So that's what I'm asking you to do.
I have a motion. Martha Marmozet, second by Heather Hudson. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
On to late items. First up is something exciting that I'm glad we're going to be able to do. I've asked the board to approve the memorandum of understanding between the board and the Eastern Green Teachers Organization for teacher stipends being paid from ESSER 3 as approved in the grant. Now, EGTO would still have to, they would have to approve the MOU, but at least wanted the board to approve our side of it at this point. I don't know if you've heard around the state, there's a lot of schools that are using some of the stimulus money to provide stipends for a lot of staff. Teachers, so which would be your certified staff, non-certified, which, you know, your building aides, custodial, people like that, part-time, non-certified, which would be like bus drivers, things like that. So what I am recommending we do with some of this ESSER money is give stipends to all those employee groups for really a lot of the extra work that had to be put into last year with virtual teaching, virtual lesson planning, everything that, you know, teachers and aides and bus drivers had to do custodial, just with a wacky year and all the extra work put in. So I'm recommending we do $1,500 stipends for teachers, $1,000 stipends for non-certified full-time, and $750 stipends for part-time non-certified. So there will be a lot more information coming out about the ESSER funds and how we're using it in the coming weeks. I plan on getting stuff out to the public on what we're doing with those funds. It's just this past month, a month and a half, is just trying to get it planned and get it written up in the grant form that they wanted us to put it in. I just haven't had a chance to really be more transparent with it at this point, but everybody will definitely get more information on that. So it's my recommendation to approve that MOU.
I have a motion, Scott Carmichael, second by Heather Hudson. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Thank you. Next up is we have a recommendation to approve the hiring of Anna Wall as a third grade teacher on a 1-year contract for right now. We have to hold a position open for a teacher that's on a 1-year leave right now in case they come back. So Anna is very well aware that this could be just a 1-year position, but it could open up to more if we have a position open for her. So that's my recommendation.
Do I have a motion? Martha Marmzay, second. Ron Childress. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Next up is a recommendation to approve the hiring of Michael Love and Garrett Bruce as high school volunteer assistant football coaches.
Do I have a motion? Ron Childress, second by Heather Hudson. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
And lastly, it's budget time. Summers are always when we start thinking about working on our corporation budget. All the schools in the state are doing this at this time. So I'm making a recommendation to approve the 2022 budget approval and advertising calendar as presented. I gave all the board members a copy of that, and it's in your packet that you gave. Yeah, thank you. So basically, just to run through it real quickly. So at this board meeting, we're going to approve the budget calendar. In the August meeting, that is where I request permission to advertise the budget, basically just advertising when the meeting dates are going to be and all of that type of thing. We advertise on Gateway, which is a site online that the public can actually get to if you know where it's at. But that tells you when the meetings are for where we will have a public hearing on the capital projects plan, the bus replacement plan, things like that. The September meeting is where we will actually hold a public hearing. That is where people from the public can come and make comments on the budget that is on Gateway. If anybody wants to come and do that, you're allowed to do that at that time. In October is the adoption of the 2022 budgets and the capital projects plan, bus replacement plan, and all of the budget resolutions. And then October 15th is when I would, or by then, no later than then, is when I would submit to Gateway the entire budget, where it all has to be done. We agree that's, you know, there's no mistakes, that sort of thing. So that's what the budget calendar looks like. So I'm just asking you to approve that budget calendar.
Okay, do I have a motion? Martha Monzay, second by Heather Hudson. Before we vote, I want to say something about, in the past, there has been some confusion in August when we advertise for capital projects and have our capital projects plan. There has been some confusion about what the capital projects plan is and what we advertise and what we budget for and what we're actually going to do. A couple of years ago, there was advertised on the capital projects plan $50,000 for a baseball backstop. Now, we had that in our plan. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what we're going to do. We just put it in there and we have allocated that amount of money for it, for different, if other things come up, we may spend it in different places. So I just want to make that clarification before that came out, and people thought that we were going to spend too much money on a backstop.
And to piggyback on that, sometimes the dollar amount isn't exactly what it's going to come out to too. It's like if you don't have the time to go out and find 2 or 3 respectable contractors to give you a bid on what they think it'll cost to do this project, you just kind of have to come up with an idea on your own and put that in there. And you're going to hope that you've budgeted enough to do that. And usually we do, because we set it high, knowing that we're not going to spend that much, but the state makes us put something in there. So I appreciate Matt saying that it is just a plan. It's not something that we have to do. It's things that we would hope to be able to do.
Okay, all those in favor? Passed 5-0.
And I believe that is it for all the agenda items. And then discussion. So I think Mr. Alt is the only one here. I know the other 2 administrators had some obligations. Anything you need to say or want to say?
You're okay. You come when you can. I'm actually leaving tomorrow to go out of state, so, but yeah, some are hit or miss for sure. I really like the reopening plan. Thank you for the work that you and Debbie put in on that. I've read it word for word, and I think it's great. Thank you to Josh, David, and Tabby. The floors, as always, look awesome. The ViewSonic boards in each of the classrooms, amazing. Marquee sign, I can't wait to fool around with some more. Finally went online today, and I learned I need to make my text a little bit bigger.
Please.
So anyway, we're learning, we're learning the software, but just so excited for that, wow. And we'll really miss Tammy and Nathan. Tammy had both of my kids, and they just adored her, and then you won't find a better person or better PE teacher than Nathan Mack. He'll be successful in Bloomington, so thank you guys.
I just have a few things. I want to say thank you to our maintenance crew, David Fields, Josh Schlosser, custodial, Tabby, George, and just what they're doing at our schools right now. They're just working so hard on getting these schools clean and waxed, and David, with the maintenance side of things, is doing some very important things that not always in the school, sometimes outside on the grounds too, so thank you to them. Thank you for the integral part that the custodial maintenance played in the installation of ViewSonic boards in each and every classroom. Josh Wilder also with 5-star. Those are going to be such great tools for our teachers and our kids, and for as many as we ordered and how quickly they got those installed on both campuses, it was just amazing to see. So thanks to everybody for that. Once again, thanks to Debbie Babcock for help with the reopening plan. Just thank you to everybody that I've had to reach out to this summer to keep me sane too, with everything we've had going on. I mean, just the ESSER grant alone drove me crazy with it's a good problem to have. You got $1.57 million, but you will not believe how hard it is to spend $1.57 million. It's not easy because there's only certain things you can spend it on. I mean, yeah, we could spend it pretty easy if they'd let us just run wild with it, but it's got to fit certain categories. So you have to reach out to vendors that you trust to provide things for your staff and your kids and things like that. So it's been a crazy summer, but it's all going to lead to a very positive reopening and a positive school year, in my opinion. So just thanks to everybody who's helped me out this summer with everything I've had to do. So that's all I have.
Scott?
Nope.
Martha?
Nope.
Heather? Anything? Ron?
Thanks.
I would like to take a second to thank Josh Schlosser for coming back to work. He had a pretty close scare, health related, and he's back at work already, working part-time. I think that's a testament to what a good family the workers are here at the school, and someone who has had health complications to want to come back and be a part of what we're doing here is, I think, a great testament. So, thank you. That's all I have. All right, it's recommended the meeting be adjourned at 8:07. A motion? Martha? Second by Heather Hudson. All those in favor? Passed 5-0.
Thanks everybody for coming.